you've been in a lot more locker rooms and on a lot more teams than Fanta and I have. And I'm curious how you think the dynamic of having one player maybe making 500K and another player making 100K, and then like 7 or 8 guys that are just kind of getting, 5K here, maybe $1,000 here, and having some guys at the end of the bench that are getting like meal vouchers at the local TGI Fridays and a chance to just drive around in a company car, more or less, for the time that they're on campus. Like, how do you think that difference in income is going to impact a college locker room?
Well, it'd be good for these guys to experience it, because at the end of the day, throughout life, you're gonna meet people with higher incomes than you. So like, especially on teams like where like you're in the NBA and you're making like $400,000 at the time, and then somebody's making $400,000 every 2 weeks, and they're like looking at your check and making jokes maybe, or someone, you never know. Like, you just have to be able to deal with that stuff as it goes along, man. Like, someone making more money than you and you making money, even if it's a little bit, it means nothing. It's what you do with your money. And that's also, it's going to be, like Fanta says, it's going to be big to have these things happen on college campuses, because, these guys will have, I guarantee you see a lot more business majors and a lot more people trying to learn how to take care of their money and what to do with it. So, like, this is going to basically put the onus on these guys to become better, being able to manage themselves, being able to manage their money before they get out of college. I kind of feel like this makes these guys real adults when they leave college, because they'll learn how to do these things. Yes. As opposed to, I feel like a lot of college athletes leave college a little bit premature, regardless of the age. They leave college premature, not knowing what to expect from the world when they leave. And if you don't know how to manage your money when you leave college, you learn very quickly, or you just learn that you fucked up. So I think this scenario will be great, man. It's gonna work out for these guys in the long run, I think, especially the younger that they are.
Yeah, I think that, to your point, we look at college basketball this offseason, and this offseason is going to be different than others, but the case is still the same. We have 1,500 some transfers in college hoops. So when you say, how much does money impact the dynamic of a locker room? The fact is, if the star player who makes dollars is a good person and a leader in his locker room, the dollars aren't going to make as big of a difference, I think, as people might make them out to be. The culture in a locker room is still culture in a locker room. When we didn't have NIL, there were issues, and there were transfers, and there's still going to be issues and transfers. Money adds a different dimension, but if you're the right kind of leader in your locker room and you earn your keep, I think Deshaun is someone who played, you'd respect that guy. You'd understand that, look, he's earned it. He's earned it for us. And guess what? If you don't respect that guy, or if you don't think he's earned it, then you're going to do what a lot of kids are doing, and that's transfer down, try to be the star somewhere else, and try to make your keep somewhere else, and schools move on. It's kind of the revolving door that is the transfer stuff in college basketball. But I do think that this is something that prepares these kids for what the next step is. Rob, you brought it up on the taxes front. I'd rather have to learn those lessons between 18 and 22 before my pro days than have to learn it then. And I also think that if you're a fringe player and you're considering those 3 routes, right, of going overseas, fighting for the 2-way, or coming back to college, the amazing thing about this is that you could argue your brand will never be as powerful as it is in the 4 years at your university. And if you can build that brand in those 4 years, this is amazing, right? You could end up as the NCAA helping a kid benefit off his brand after he gets a degree, more so by allowing NIL during his college days than you were before, when he can't benefit off his name, image, and likeness. He gets out of college still as the fringe player, but he has no foundation to really build the brand up any further. So staying in college could end up benefiting the brand during that time more than any other time in some of these guys' career, because they're not going to get the same level of exposure in their basketball career, especially if they're playing overseas or if they're constantly battling in the G League.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point, Fanta. Go ahead, Day.
All right, before the question, Good, great. That was a great point, Fanta. Not to mention though, money wise, it's a little bit different as a professional because those teams are paying you. The teams aren't going to be paying these guys. There's going to be other people. These guys are going to be making their money off of their image and likeness. So I don't know how much the locker room will change because it's not like the university saying, we're going to pay this kid $500,000 and pay you $5,000 because we think less of you or something like that.
Well, the only thing I would say to that real quick, Day, is that there are going to be universities that are going to be able to say like, hey, if we give you this $100,000, can you pretend to have a deal with this kid so you can pay this kid the $100,000? Because we really need this shooting guard. We don't have enough shooting. We got to get some spacing for our big guys out here.
Yeah, but the thing is though, because if they're doing that, that's like something that's done in an off paper type deal, as opposed to when a team is like, we want you for $5 million. Like everyone knows that contract. So I would say it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. But I really wonder how the coaches are going to control the locker room more or less, because as a pro, I've seen guys, when they make their money, whether it's a little bit or a lot, if it's more than they never had before, some people feel like they arrived when they get their money. So I wonder how that's going to affect the way the players approach the game too. I wonder what effect it'll have on the game in a sense. Not in the pros is really different because you don't have that safety net as a pro. In college, there's kind of a safety net. If you're a decent enough player, maybe somebody will pick you up, and you've seen people trickle down to 3, 4, 5 schools. What I'm saying? Like pros, if you get slapped with that stigma of not being worth the buck and you're not playing, you have no film, you're not getting a job sometimes. So I wonder how this will affect locker rooms where coaches have to have control and try to, will this turn into a players deal sooner or later? Kind of like how the NBA is, where it's a players league, or will it still have control with the coaches more or less being the forefront of it? I just wonder how it'll all pan out when it's finished.
It's going to be the coaches still, because the players just aren't going to be on campus for long enough, the players that would have that kind of sway. But I do want to just circle back to a point both of you guys made in terms of the coach and the locker room and how that stuff all kind of works out. I was having a conversation with a guy, and I don't know if I want to say his name, but he's a coach that you would have heard of at a school that a lot of people know. That's the simplest way to put it. At an event a couple of weekends ago in Philly. And the point that he basically made was he's not super concerned about issues in the locker room from NIL stuff, because if something arises, it's going to just magnify a problem that was already there. Because the issue is going to be okay, you got a kid that's coming off the bench that sees the starting shooting guard that's playing over him, getting a deal where he's getting X amount of dollars, and he's mad because he's coming off the bench and he thinks that he should be starting. The issue is not necessarily going to be the money. It's going to be that you got a kid on the bench that isn't happy because he's not starting, more or less. Does that make sense? So
definitely is.
I think it's going to magnify stuff that already was going on there. And the other thing that I want to mention is that, to me, there's basically going to be two ways that you can really profit off. I'm not talking about just getting a couple thousand here, I'm talking about really, really make a lot of money. It's going to be a superstar on social, be a superstar when it comes to IG and TikTok and all that kind of good stuff. Be an actual influencer, right? So your money is coming in not because you're great at your sport. It's because you're great at being an influencer, the same way that you got all these people making X amount of dollars off Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and all that, as it is, right? The other way to do it is to be a great player, right? To be the star of the team, to be the guy that is the face, to be the guy that the fans love. And if you're not working on your game and you're settling for that one deal where you get $25,000 from a car company and you get to drive around like a Dodge Charger for a season, right? If you think that you made it there and you stop working on your game, that money's not going to be there the next season. You're not going to be the same player. So I think these guys really need to understand, and I think a lot of them do, that the way that you're going to profit off of this is to be great at all of the things outside of basketball that allows you to profit off of it, or be great at basketball, right? There's no middle ground. If you're just okay at both those things, no one's going to care. No one's going to want that money. So the long and short of it is there's going to be opportunities for the next Mark Titus to make as much money as the next Greg Oden in a situation like that. And as long as you understand that you got to be great at something and put in the work on something then I think it's gonna be about your exposure. That's what it's going to be. It's all about the value of your exposure, and the ways to have that value is to be great at social or to be a great player that everybody loves.
The money doesn't fall out of the sky, fellas.
No, it does not.
Oh, by the way, this is where Titus should have some sort of bat signal, and he should zoom in right now. Like, I feel like his ears are ringing somewhere in California, wherever the heck he is. No, you know what? Greg Oden just made me think of this point. It also can help the player who has unfortunate circumstances, right? Who can never really get off the ground in his professional career, and at least can make some cash when he's in college. Again, college might be a time for some of these guys that previously didn't give them the avenue to benefit financially, and they could put some of this money away, or that if it's managed correctly, they could parlay it into more money that has perhaps nothing to do with basketball after college, or everything to do with it. And I also think we're in a world now where what makes you tick? It's a question that we ask players all the time. Like, what's your why? What makes you tick? What keeps you going? Sometimes players go to college, and when they go pro, or when they start their pro career, we end up, when they're starting their pro career, kind of scratching their head saying, I don't know if this kid has it. Or a coach says, yeah, he's just not motivated. Guess what? The bags sometimes change the level of motivation in every way, shape, and form. You enter those in the equation of college. If a kid can get those endorsements, if he's picking them up, you might find out that a kid's got a lot more motivation and a lot more of a tick than he would otherwise. So I just think that the avenues that this opens up in the college sports landscape can be a positive if managed correctly. And that's why this is so long overdue, and that's why it belongs on the table now. Because you know what? We should not have been keeping two New Mexico women's basketball players from benefiting off their name, image, and likeness. We should be allowing them to do that, learn from their mistakes in their business model, learn from different things in their business model in college.
Yep.
So that then when they are past college, they have a pre-existing bankroll and can build on that from what they've learned in college. Hence your business majors. It really weaves into it. It's almost like an internship of you self-promoting.
Exactly.
And how do you build up on that to then be someone that can do it in their professional career?